Let him prove that he has paid taxes, because he hasn't.
So no regrets about Mitt Romney?
Well, they call it whatever they want. Romney didn't win, did he? Mr. President, I learned a long time ago here in the Senate that it's not, you can't, the rules of the Senate do not allow pictures, graphs, and things that nature to go in the congressional record. And that's really too bad. And I wish I'd had time this morning, but I read this paper this morning, to blow up this cartoon by the syndicated cartoonist, the Washington Post, Tom Tolles. I've talked to Tom Tolles. I think I'll call him again. I do it very often, a couple times in the past many decades, because he's really good. And today's cartoon is about as good as it gets. This is a picture of Tom Tolles of Donald Trump. And I would invite everybody to take a look at it. I wish I could put it in the record. And he says, maybe we should start profiling. This is Donald Trump speaking. There's a picture of him. We should profile huckster haircut, beady eyes, blowhard lips, unhealthy orange glow, obvious self-dealing, and he's got money pouring out of his pockets, overweight, underhanded, ever-shifting positions. And as Tolles always has every cartoon, he has a little person down the bottom making some snide remark about the cartoon generally. And what that little person says today is there's a body of evidence, the body of Donald Trump. And he's the one that should be profiled, not the people that he wants to be profiled. So a little more about Donald Trump. Mitt Romney and I agree on one thing, and that's one thing for sure. There are other things, of course, we would agree on, but let's talk about one thing that Mitt Romney and I agree on, and that is Donald Trump should release his tax returns. But Trump won't release his tax returns. He refuses to release his returns. He comes up with one excuse after another to not release his tax returns. It's a little odd because this is Donald Trump we're talking about. He's not known for caution or restraint. He's the most uninhibited, unhinged, and reckless presidential candidate ever. Let's consider just a little bit of his track record. We've seen Trump refer to women in the most crude and derogatory manner. We've seen Trump call immigrants murderers and rapists. We've seen Trump fear-monger against Muslim Americans, even the parents of one of our proud soldiers who lost his life fighting for his country, our country. We've seen Trump mock someone with a disability on more than one occasion. We've seen Trump impugn a federal judge. Why? Because his parents were Hispanic. We've seen Trump continue to question President Obama's country of origin. We have seen Trump casually erase the specter of an assassination against Hillary Clinton on more than one occasion. This is the Donald Trump we know. Donald Trump will do and say anything, regardless of the consequences. So why has Trump refused to produce his tax returns? Why is this the one time in his life where he exercises caution? Why on taxes does he maintain absolute silence? The answer is very simple, Mr. President. Because Trump's tax returns would further destroy his presidential candidacy. Production of his tax returns would prove again that he's a fraud. If the American people had access to Donald Trump's tax returns, they would show he's not the billionaire he claims to be. Trump wants us to believe that in spite of all his bankruptcies and this litigation that's been ongoing for decades, he's the credibly worthy, successful businessman that he portrays himself to be. But he's not. And his tax returns would prove that he's far from wealthy Trump. Donald Trump's tax returns would also prove that he avoids paying his fair share of taxes. On the rare occasion that Donald Trump's tax returns have been made public, that was one occasion some time ago, they showed that he pays nothing in income taxes. As the Washington Post reported earlier this year, and this is a direct quote, the last time information from Donald Trump's income tax returns was made public, the bottom line was striking. He'd paid the federal government zero in taxes, zero in income taxes. Donald Trump is afraid if his supporters discover that he has avoided paying taxes, they will see him for what he is. Someone the IRS should charge with a crime, investigate, do something, because he deserves all the scrutiny he can get, because he doesn't want us to see what he has in his so-called income. But perhaps the most damning evidence of Trump's tax records would be that he lives off the American taxpayer. Donald Trump is a freeloader. Even though Trump refuses to pay his share of taxes, he's content to use other taxpayers' hard-earned money. We learned yesterday that his charity he puts money in, he doesn't put money in it, he gets other charities to donate to his charity, and then he goes out and tries to be a big shot donating other people's money. Even though Trump refused to pay his share of taxes, he's content to use other taxpayers' hard-earned money. One news outlet has reported that over the past 3 decades, Donald Trump has received $885 million in tax breaks. $885 million in tax breaks. Let's put that in perspective. In 2014, the entire state of Ohio received $686 million in federal funding to provide benefits for needy families. That funding helped almost 120,000 people in Ohio. $885 million for Trump, compared to $686 million from the entire state of Ohio. There's no question about it, Donald Trump is a welfare king. But the welfare king doesn't want voters to see that he doesn't pay taxes, even as he uses billion-dollar taxpayer dollars to keep his bankrupt companies afloat. Trump doesn't want Americans to see that he claims middle-class tax credits. This is what was reported in the New York Daily News. I quote, "The flame-throwing Republican contender for the White House appears to be the only New York City billionaire who snagged a tax break aimed at middle-class homeowners, raising even more questions about his alleged billions." Continued quote, "An analysis of property records for 38 Big Apple billionaires on the Forbes 400 list conducted by Keynes New York Business found Trump was the only one to receive star tax credits. That credit gives those entitled to it around $300 off their tax bill." So is he a billionaire? I doubt it. Donald Trump, this self-purported billionaire, loves to talk about how rich he is, has been falsely claiming a $300 tax break for years, and he's done it for a number of years. Like a sponge, Donald Trump soaks up all the taxpayer money he can find, while at the same time not paying his fair share of taxes. Remember, the same Donald Trump who once said, and this is another quote, "The problem we have right now, we have a society that sits back and says, we're not going to do anything. And eventually, the 50% cannot carry, and it's unfair to them, but cannot carry the other 50%. I think Donald Trump's confused about who's carrying whom. He's the one relaxing, playing golf at his golf courses, many of which are paid for largely by taxpayer dollars, and depending at the same time on the American taxpayer to bankroll his company and his golf game. But Trump doesn't seem to care. In fact, he brags about how he uses other people's hard-earned money. Here's what he said yesterday, I'll quote, "It's called OPM, other people's money. There's nothing wrong with doing things with other people's money. That's what I do." End of quote. How can Speaker Ryan, Senator McConnell, and other congressional Republicans endorse this man for president, endorse him for anything? How can they continue to support Donald Trump as he shuns transparency and refuses to release the most basic information about taxes and income? Hillary Clinton has posted all her tax records for the last 4 decades for the world to see. Donald Trump shows us nothing. He's afraid to. Mr. Trump, prove to every American that you're wealthy, successful, and you're the man you claim to be. Mr. Trump, prove to every American that you've paid your fair share of taxes. Mr. Trump, prove to every American you're not mooching off the American taxpayer. Mr. Trump, release your tax returns. Prove me wrong. Prove Mitt Romney wrong. I dare you to come clean and show us your tax records. But he won't.